Hello there, guys, and welcome back to my channel for another player reactions, player ratings, and live reaction live stream following Chelsea winning a third Premier League home game in a row. Well, that sounds like a fake stat, doesn't it? Who would have thought 3 home wins in a row? For us, I wouldn't have thought it. As you can already tell, we are joined by a slightly different guest for our player ready live stream. We will be joined by Aaron as well in a couple of minutes. He'll be here in a few. Just give him time. But Alex, I decided on a day like today, I'll be honest, didn't necessarily expect us to win. So I thought, okay, let me message Alex if he's like down to come in, because we're often sat here. The chat is arguing against me. I'm arguing against the boys. I think that guy was dreadful. The other guys think that guy was dreadful. I'm like, maybe we should bring a neutral in, even though I don't really believe you're a neutral and you kind of enjoy Chelsea failing. But we won't talk about that, but we'll call you a neutral to see what different perspectives that potentially could give us. Now, in the end, Pochettino'S job, I'm going to call it that, was saved by Noni Madueke, the guy who he outrageously didn't start in the first place. Comes on, wins a penalty, takes the penalty, and wins the game for us. Yeah, this is the most Chelsea thing ever. And Mudryk scores and gets injured. Now, he might not be too seriously injured. Apparently, he was walking around to have a lap off on at the end and stuff. So maybe he's not actually badly injured, which would be fantastic. But yeah, it would just be a typical Chelsea day to get a win, but have it by the guy that the manager dislikes the most and have the other good player on the day get injured. Alex, first of all, thank you for joining us. I appreciate it very much. This is, like I say, it's probably also a bit strange for you because you're like, well, all these guys are happy that Chelsea won, and you're like, oh, flip's sake, Chelsea, couldn't you have bottled it? But how, and I don't necessarily, I mean, obviously, if there are points where you want to speak more globally, please do. But in first and foremost, I would like to focus on the game tonight itself. How did you see that going?
What, like before the game, how I thought it would go?
I guess that as well, but also I didn't mean to quite phrase it like that. But now that you've brought it up, how did you think it would go beforehand? And how similar to how it went in reality was that?
I thought you would create like 2 quite big chances and nothing else, and then you'd go 1-0 down, and then you forget how to play football and lose a game, which it tends to be how all of your other football matches go. Yeah. So you know, I think when you got the early goal, it was like, ooh, Chelsea are 1-0 up. This is quite new for them. I wonder how they're going to deal with it. And obviously, you conceded. But to be fair, I'm joking around because I'm here to have fun. I thought the first half was solid, where you know, all realms of expectation and, you know, logic and what I can see at a football match went out the window was about 10 minutes into the second half when Pochettino made his substitutions. From there, I'll be honest, my head was spinning, trying to figure out what on earth was going on.
Mate, my head was spinning pretty much since summer, since the day it turned up. And hey, I will say that I did try to talk myself into, why this is a good idea or whatever else. In hindsight, so far, don't think it particularly is a good idea. And I think, honestly, we've gone past the point of no return for a manager. To me, no matter really what happens from now on in, eventually he will get sacked. It's just a question of when and how the results go until then. But who knows? You know, that was what we've been taught by the Abramovich era. Maybe things go differently now. Aaron, you have joined us. Let's try if your microphone works. First of all, thank you for joining us. Second of all, I just said this to Alex a few minutes ago. We've now won 3 Prem home games in a row. Now, that's the most shocking stat I've heard all season. And one of those stats is that we've lost 19 league games in a calendar year. And still, winning 3 at home is more shocking. And that tells you everything you need to know, really. But Aaron, let me know if let's see if your mic works.
Yeah, I think it should be all right. It should be cool.
It does. Fantastic.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm in some sort of simulation because winning 3 home games in a row, I feel like I haven't heard that in a very long time. But these days, it's actually embarrassing and shameless that a win against Crystal Palace seems like a really big thing for us because we're fucking down in the dumps, aren't we? So little things like this keep my week sweet. So yeah, they're gonna go and ruin it on Saturday against Luton, I have a feeling. But anyway, beside the point, it's a good thing that we got the 3 points. Made it very fucking difficult for ourselves, didn't we? But first half was very good actually. I was quite pleased with the first half. Second half was, for lack of better words, shite. But I mean, it's about the result at the end of the day, and yeah, we walk away with the 3 points. So I'll be shameless and celebrate that. I don't mind it.
Exactly. I think as Chelsea, we've come to a point where things have been so dire. We can't sit here and like, oh, but we didn't play well. Mate, we've won like 4 games all season, what it feels like. I'm celebrating. I don't care how shit we play. We don't win a lot, so I'm buzzing every time we do. But exactly like both you and Alex said, the first half, we were pretty good, I thought. Now, sure, like Alex touched on, by comparison to the standards that we've created for ourselves so far this season, by that standard, it was pretty good. Like Mudryk looked good, Gallagher looked good, Gusto looked absolutely phenomenal, quite frankly. And we look to have some sort of, I don't know, Nkunku coming in, making his full debut, making his first start for Chelsea. It just looked like if it gave us more attacking structure. It's what I felt like. He just, I don't know, everything just seemed to be more calm. You could give him the ball, he would keep the ball. You know, something that we haven't really had any player do for the last God knows how long. Even Palmer, he's been phenomenal for the most part of the season. But Palmer, you give him the ball, it's a 50-50 whether he gets shoulder barged in the back and loses it. That didn't seem to be a thing for Nkunku. And that is a big improvement for us. But obviously, you can still tell that the guy hasn't played football in God knows how many months. Alex, obviously, we'll get into player ratings a little bit later. But do you think Nkunku coming into the side was a big change into what Chelsea were doing? Not necessarily tactically as such, but in terms of that it just seemed a bit more coherent, which is ridiculous considering this is a player who's starting his first game of the season. So he shouldn't exactly help cohesion, should he?
Yeah, I think he did help cohesion, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure how much of that is down to like what was directed upon him and what Nkunku's just really good at, which is finding space, getting separation off the defense. Yeah. So like, it's not just finding space to receive the ball; it's finding space and being able to turn and go at the defense. I also think he looked better because Crystal Palace's defense defended very zonally. Like they did not want to go quite tight to him. So he just kind of had a lot of freedom to find pockets and get the ball and move forward. I also think it helped that Palace won. Weirdly, they didn't sit as deep as I think a lot of people thought they would.
Sure.
So he could turn and put the ball quickly in behind. But I think he did make Chelsea look a lot better. I wonder how that would happen, play against a Brentford or someone. But yeah, I think...
Why do you think Brentford would make it look different? Because they defend on the man?
I think they would defend... They would close the spaces between the gaps, and they would also defend a lot deeper in a 5-3-2. And I think the space Nkunku could find would be a lot more limited. And that, you know, I think Nkunku's a very, very good player. I'm just interested to see how he finds that battle.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially while the rest of the team is as dire as it is, and him trying to find form, fitness, confidence, all sorts of things, right? That's essentially what he's having to do and trying to do. But yeah, there you go. I mean, it's tricky because I agree with you. I wasn't even trying to say, oh, as soon as Nkunku is back, Poch knows what he's doing. Absolutely not. I don't think so at all. It's just, like you said, Nkunku is just quite good. So that helped us. And also, compared to everybody else, a little bit experienced. He's not exactly senior, but... Well, I mean, we signed him at 25 and then he's been injured for the whole time. But he's now 26. A bit more of a senior player. Today, by the way, Chelsea's youngest ever Premier League team in history. 23 point something, whatever their average age was. That's what happens when Thiago Silva and Sterling don't play for a game. Then we'd have pretty much this average age every week, really. But yeah, Aaron, I'll bring the lineup up now. Obviously, we had a lot of players out by suspensions in Raheem Sterling and Cole Palmer. We had a lot of players out injured, of course. God knows how many. I can't even count them all up. There's that many. Enzo isn't fit. Ugochukwu isn't fit. I mean, we kind of rushed Caicedo back, I think, which is probably why he was as bad as he was today, in my opinion. But, yeah, I mean, apparently 3 days ago he had 39 degrees fever. So, of course, he wasn't going to be amazing today. But, yeah, Gallagher and Caicedo are only two midfielders. Gusto playing at right back, which... was a change because usually we used to see everyone out of position, but Poch made sure we saw that later on in the game. So we can talk about that later. And kind of shockingly, and I'll be honest, I only really clocked as the game was going on, Thiago Silva was rested. I don't know how I didn't really realize what gravity of a situation that is really. Obviously, it's because we played 3 days ago and he's 39 years old and he can't play every day. Makes sense, but I still didn't clock it. But Aaron, what did you make of that team? Obviously, Nkunku's first start and everything else there isn't really much he can do outside of one thing. Why is Martin playing right wing? He's a left back. I know he did that in pre-season, but that was when we had Chilwell and Cucurella fit. Now, you're playing him there over Madueke. And instead of playing you at left back, it's just baffling, isn't it? Like, it just keeps on being baffling.
Yeah, I don't particularly understand it. I mean, I was going through the lineup when it came out, and I was just looking at, because on the Premier League app, when you click on a player's name, it goes into like their profile and it shows you their ages. And I think it was like 3 or 4 players were older than me in that starting 11, and I thought, shit, this is like, yeah, this is mad, because I'm not particularly old, but for only 3 or 4 players in a starting 11 to be older than me is fucking nuts. But yeah, I was kind of confused with the whole Martin thing, because when the team came out, I wasn't sure whether he was going to do something different than like have the 3 centre backs and then 2 wing backs and actually play Martin as a wing back, because it gives you that option. But yeah, on that right wing, he just doesn't. I don't think he has the IQ in the final third to play as a winger, because there's so many times where you see like the sorts of positions you'd want your right winger to get into and how they link up with their fullback. He just doesn't quite have that instinct. So that was a weird one, because I thought if Madueke was there on the bench, he might have been able to start. And it's better to start him, and then if he can't play more than a half or something, take him off at half time, and then use Martin as a plan B rather than just start him. But besides that, I mean, I would have taken Michael Jackson out and put in Broja, because that guy is just fucking. Yeah, he's doing my nutting now. It's really starting to piss me off. But beside those two, I think the team was all right.
There you go. I mean, the whole Jackson Broja debate, people know I like Broja. My girlfriend is half Albanian, so it's almost the household forces me to love Broja, really. And I want him to succeed, but I'll be honest, like when he's getting a chance at the moment, he's not really taking. I'm not saying he's necessarily always like shockingly bad, but he's not like really doing anything. Jackson is kind of shit and often steals time I get to go. Even nearly did today. As much as he was offside again, which is a bit unfortunate. Now, Alex, your perspective on this, again, as an outsider. I saw your tweets before the game. Martin at right wing also baffled you. Again, I'm not sure if you were aware that was also a thing we did in pre-season and as a sub a few times already previously this season. But it just looks strange, doesn't it? Like, you have Madueke there, seemingly fairly fit. I can't remember what minute he came on against Wolves, but fairly fit. Like Aaron said, if he's not fit for a whole 90, even for a 60, play for 45. Do you know what I mean? And see what happens. And then go from there. But to play a left back and right wing, like, surely it would make more sense than to play Marta left back, and let Gusto be an actual right winger. But then again, Gusto was the best player we had on the pitch at right back, so maybe it just made sense the way it was, I suppose. But what is your perspective when you see this? By the way, one other question I want to add to that. How do you see Chelsea's injury crisis? And I'm not asking you, why are we having this in your opinion? But is Chelsea's injury crisis as bad to you as it is to us? Or do you think we think it's worse than it actually is compared to maybe others or whatever?
On the injury crisis thing, I'd say it is as bad as you guys think. I look at your bench and I don't see a list of players. I see a list of like capital cities across the world. Like you've got like, if I go down onto it, you've got Gilchrist. That sounds like the capital of some like New Zealand, like Ireland. I know we've got like Bergstrom. That sounds like a city in Sweden.
You know, that Bergstrom is the tallest goalkeeper in the Premier League, or the tallest player in the Premier League, officially registered this season.
Oh, really? Oh, that's interesting.
6'9".
Don't give Pochettino ideas. He might put him at right wing next. But yeah, Martin said at right wing.
You should put him up front, really, with all our crosses.
Martin said at right wing. Yeah, I was aware it was tried in pre-season. I'm aware, like I've seen it a couple of times. He's been subbed on. I've kept up with quite a lot of Chelsea games this year.
Yeah.
But
they're
yeah, when
bangers, to be fair.
Yeah, I just when I saw him start, I'm like, okay, right, he needs to play well, otherwise, like, massive question of Pochettino. This is a guy who had a very good year last season at left back, and he's just been put at right wing seemingly because he's better there at right wing than left. It's just they're better at right wing than left back, because if he was better at left back, he'd play him at left back over Levi Cole. It's just a really, really weird decision. And my reaction after the game is, and I think everyone else's reaction was, well, Martin wasn't pretty good. And I'm like, well, yeah, he didn't look pretty good for a left back who's been put at right wing in the Premier League. Very, very weird. I mean, obviously,
he was still on goal once, but unfortunately messed it up. It would have been an absolute wonder assist by Mudryk if he scored it. But that's kind of what happens when you play a left back at right wing, except it's Marcos Alonso. But that was the one left back we never played up front. Do you know what I mean? The one we should have played up front, we didn't. My days. We have a super chat here by Aziz King. Appreciate it very much. He says, to be honest, Poch is playing players out of position. good spot there, mate. It's not like we've been discussing that for the last 3 months, but appreciate it. Yeah, what else can I say? He does everywhere. At left back, at right back, left wing, right wing. Well, actually not a left wing today. But like somehow, to be fair to him, he's turned Gallagher into a player that can be decent as a 10, can be decent as an 8, can be decent as a 6. Who would have thought that ahead of Gallagher ahead of the season? One of our best players again today, I thought. I'll, just drag something around a little bit. For me, what was interesting, in my opinion, today, and you could disagree with that if you want, Alex, and obviously the same for you, Aaron. What is interesting to me is for a lot of this season, we've played obviously Colwill at left back, regardless of who was at right back, whether that was Gusto, Reese, or Disasi, right? But it was pretty much always that Colwill acted as a proper left back. And today was one of the first times in a while, and I'm not sure if it's purely because Nkunku is there, that it felt like we did what we did in preseason, where we essentially build in a 3 and then have a 3-2-4-1, and that's what we build in, and that's what we did in preseason. It worked brilliantly. Okay, then it was more with Nkunku out wide rather than Mudryk, but that's what we did in preseason. I just don't get why we stopped doing this. Like, you don't need Mar to do this. Palmer is actually much more perfect for this. I know, obviously, Gusto being injured a lot this season, and Reese being injured a lot this season, and Chilwell being injured a lot this season. That has, I guess, partly stopped us from doing this. But still, we could have done it more than we have. And it just makes us work better. I don't know what happened in the second half, I'll be perfectly honest, because the second half was absolutely dreadful. But that's what we did in the first half. And it was the reason why it worked is because I'm not saying that's the reason, but I'm not surprised that it worked because that's what we did in preseason. Like, again, one last question before we get into ratings on that, Alex. First of all, do you agree that that's essentially what we did? And also, can you find any sort of explanation? And I know you're not a Chelsea fan, you can't watch every game and be in the detailed matter of it all the time. But have you ever heard of a manager doing something in preseason, it working brilliantly, and then not doing it again for 5 months? Like, that's just baffling, isn't it?
Yeah, no idea. Absolutely no idea. On the what Chelsea did of the game, yeah, I agree. I think that was broadly the setup. I think the only note I sort of maybe have a bit of difference on is Gallagher's performance. I think he actually did quite well, I would agree, but
it was absolutely not. No one is phenomenal for us, Alex. We need to realize that. We're never great. The best we get is like 7.5. Do you know what I mean?
Sorry, let me find the standard here. I mean, there was a period of the game where I was like, Enzo Fernandez is going to come back from injury, and I have a bad feeling that Pochettino is going to play Gallagher and Caicedo in the pivot still with Nkunku ahead and bench Enzo Fernandez, which I think would be a bad decision because while I think Pochettino likes Gallagher for his pressing work, but in possession, there's just too many times he was either playing a very safe pass or misplacing, not like an easy pass, but fairly difficult ball, but one Enzo Fernandez probably would have landed. Like simple switches, simple passes through the lines. And yeah, I think Gallagher's just being asked to play in a role he's just not suited to. And again, I just don't particularly... I understand why, but I think it's a bit of a mistake. That's the only point of difference I had from what you said.
Yeah, there you go. That whole thing is a weird thing. To me, the biggest issue for all of this is Caicedo, by the way. If Caicedo was as physical and as much of a tackling and defensive monster as we thought he would be or wanted him to be, then Enzo being the way Enzo is would be okay. But because Caicedo isn't like that, the whole thing with Caicedo doesn't really work for Poch. So he needs to put Gallagher in there so he has someone that works hard enough, which was supposed to be Caicedo, but it isn't. At least now Lavia came back. And I'll be honest, for a 19-year-old, is he still 19? Maybe he's turned 20 now, but still, young kid, to play his first game in God knows how many months and do this, that was very impressive, I thought. But yeah, Aaron, I'm not going to hang too much around tactical details. This is what we have Alex for. What I'd ask you about is the goalkeeper, Petrovic. Now, I did have my question marks when we signed him. Why is he 23 when he's still in the MLS? Shouldn't you be at a higher level at 23 if you are talented and good? And I have my question marks. And also the fact that Poch chose not to play him against, say, Blackburn in the Carabao Cup. Chose to go with Sanchez anyway. Then Sanchez got injured and Petrovic just played since. And I'll be honest, other than his very first game in the game Sanchez got injured in away at Everton, I don't think Petrovic has put a foot wrong. His passing is pretty decent. He makes the saves that he's supposed to make. And, well, what more can I ask for? Compared to Sanchez, who passes into the opponent at least once a game, Petrovic doesn't do that. So it's a significant improvement already. Now, Sanchez was pretty good on the line, and I didn't really have an issue with Sanchez outside of his passing. But Petrovic is doing all the same in goal without giving the ball away. So I'm pretty happy, even though today was another day where I'm like, I don't really know what ratings to give him. He can't do nothing about the goal. and he didn't really have anything else to do. So does it end up being an average 6, or do you give him any more than that, Aaron? Or less, potentially?
Nah, I think it's just a bog standard 6 because he didn't really have anything to do. As you said, he can't really do anything on a goal, but it's just refreshing to see a keeper who doesn't constantly just kick the ball to the other team. Like, he can actually find a player who wears the same kit as him, so it's kind of helpful. So
To be
yeah,
fair, goalies do wear their own kits, so maybe that's
with the same badge on it. You know exactly what I meant. Let's not get into the semantics of it, but yeah, it's good to see that there's actually somebody capable with their feet in goal because we've not had that for a little while. We've had Mendy, who was shite. We've had Sanchez, who was shite. So yeah, it is good. I'd give him a 6, to be honest. Nothing to really big him up about, but it's nice calm head in there.
There you go. I would agree, probably. I could maybe do 6.5, but I'll be honest, that 0.5 extra would be because he's still somewhat surprising me. If I'm objectively judging what I've seen, I think a 6 is probably about fair. Alex, again, there wasn't much to say on the goalkeeper today, but just quickly, from what you have seen of him, which I guess is like no more than the 2 or 3 games I've seen of him, what do you make of him? And a question for you now, because you're obviously, in terms of like, Euro expert, trying to find hidden gems and stuff, that's kind of your thing, isn't it? I know more in Europe than the MLS, I get that. But do you ever have that thought when a player is 23 and not playing at a high level that you're like, well, are you that talented? Wouldn't you be at a higher level otherwise? Like, again, I'm not talking 20 or even 21, but like at 23, I know goalies age a bit differently. I get that. But I'm like, you are from Europe. Like if he's from America, fair dues, right? But you are from Europe. So you left Europe for the MLS. Surely if you were really talented, a bigger club in Europe would have picked you up instead of the MLS. But then we're seeing play, I'm like, you're certainly not worse than all the other goalkeepers we've had for the last 4 years. But how do you see him?
Yeah, I actually completely disagree. I think it's absolutely fun. I mean, do you know who Nice's goalkeeper is at the moment, who are in the top of the league?
Bulka.
Yeah, and that's his.
You didn't think I would know that, did you?
It's his first year ever as a starter. Before this, he's made more appearances this season than he ever made in his career.
Yeah.
So I actually find nothing wrong with Petrovic doing that. On his quality, I think he's been fine. I think he probably looks better than Sanchez. Just having a quick look at the stats, and from what I've kind of seen myself, in my opinion, I think he looks better than Sanchez because he's not trying the risky passes that Sanchez was trying. He's playing a bit safer. So I wouldn't go as far as say, he's better in possession. Yeah, but he's been solid. And your 6 rating, I wouldn't disagree with.
Fair dues. You move up.
So wait, the goalkeeper for the top of the league in France used to play for Chelsea
and PSG.
Okay, no, yeah, we give all the way the good ones, and we just keep.
It's the problem. I don't understand. Chelsea has this fetish, and we've had this fetish for many years with goalkeepers. We just love to buy them young and think, oh yeah, in 8 years they can start for us, because we don't understand the goalkeepers shouldn't start for top clubs at 20. No, they probably need to be 24, 25 before they can do that.
Yeah, like 23, 24 is like I'd say like the equivalent of like an 18, 19-year-old, I'd say.
No, you're right. You're right in saying that. And I guess I get what you mean in terms of Petrovic. And clearly, I didn't try to say that was necessarily my opinion. I had that question mark, like, why aren't you at a higher level? But like you say, keeping it safer. But don't I prefer that for a goalie? Don't I prefer you keeping it safer rather than giving it away to the opponent in ridiculously dangerous positions that will make everyone nervous? Like, we don't have a team full of 39-year-olds who can't be bothered by this. The team is all 12. So Sanchez, don't give the ball away in nervy situations the whole time. Do you know what I mean? But anyway, we get to these defenders. Disasi. Honestly, other than Gusto, they were all dreadful. Quite frankly, all of these 3 were diabolical, quite frankly. Disasi's passing was poor, whether he was a right back or a centre back. The amount of times he gave the ball away, his attempt at playing out from the back is just a whole nightmare. Him and Caicedo together, I'm like, mate, it's like watching Bakayoko again. Honestly, that's what it feels like sometimes. And I still don't see how Disasi is remotely better than Trevor Chalobah, if I'm being honest. A bit physically bigger, sure, but everything else, a little bit slower, a little bit worse at passing, maybe better defensively a little bit, ever so slightly, but not worth mentioning for me. I'll give him, because he didn't like cost the goal or whatever, I'll give him like a 4. But I just don't think he was very good. I don't overall maybe have like the biggest issue with it, But I'm just saying he's just not better than Chalobah. Not saying that he's bad, but just not better than Chalobah, in my opinion. Maybe 4 is even a bit high. I don't know. Aaron, I'll ask you first. What did you make of Disasi? What would you rate him?
I'm just going through his stats at the moment. He attempted 10 long balls and only succeeded in 2. He lost possession 16 times. He only had 83% pass accuracy. I mean, he made 3 tackles, 3 clearances, and blocked the shot. But yeah, on the eye, it was not great. So I'll probably go with a 3, to be honest. I just feel like he's clunky. And you can tell by like his frame and size that he's not going to be the most agile. So especially when he goes out to right back, he just looks like a big stiff idiot out there, to be honest.
I agree. Alex, I don't know how you feel about hearing things like that, because obviously your big fetish is Ligue 1, and obviously that's all the centre-backs we signed from there. What do you make of Disasi? Like, when Chelsea signed him, like with all the other signings, he was the one I probably least understood out of all of them. I'm like, you're signing all the young players and the super players, super young, talented players, and then randomly you find Disasi, who's 25, who's done good for Monaco, but like, was he really what we needed? I don't know. But what did you think of him today, mate?
I mean, Ugochukwu was the one that I was like, "What? Why? You've already signed
true.
that
But none of us expected him to be signed for the squad, so
yeah,
that only became baffling later on, rather.
I mean, it's interesting I've watched a lot of Chelsea this season, but I've been disconnected largely from discourse. So it's interesting, one, to hear your opinion on Disasi, and two, like, from what Aaron has said and what the chat has said, not really a strong reaction, as if you're like saying anything truly controversial about being Disasi being bad. I mean, just first on what I think of him, like I don't tend to notice him that much in the game. But one thing I do notice that I'll very quickly check before I talk about him in Ligue 1. I don't know, did you? I'm not sure if I'm noticing this at Chelsea more unusual, more unusual compared to other teams. But do either of you feel like your centre backs pass it sideways more often than compared to previous years? Because there's been a few times I've been watching Chelsea recently, and the ball moves like right to left, like almost completely straight sideways between like the right back to Disasi to Badiashile to Colwill or Thiago Silva's in there. Is that something you've picked up on, or am I imagining that?
No, absolutely, I agree. The only thing I would say is we did used to always do that already. Just it used to be in the back 3 that we passed it around. Now we pass it around in the back 4. So. Because obviously it used to be Chilwell and Reece James when they were ever fit, and they were just a bit higher, so they weren't the easy passing option as such. So usually what the centre-backs did, passed it between them, give it to Jorginho, and Jorginho would then pass it to one of the fullbacks. So it's kind of changed, but not really. We are very heavily fullback heavy, and we have been for years. And it's a problem, really, because the way fullbacks are being used has drastically changed in football over the last 3 years. At least the top clubs are all using fullbacks very differently to how it maybe once was the case. Even Klopp found his, one trick to like somehow, I'm not saying that's all he did at Liverpool, but the way to make Trent be better and be less defensively frail and exposed was, all right, off the ball, might still be a right back. On the ball, I'm putting him at centre mid. And now everyone's just raving about how great he is on the ball. I still think we should be doing that with Reece James too, by the way. But let's wait for him to be fit first. But yeah, just quickly, Alex, rating for Disasi on a game like today. This is where it gets really interesting for me, because I say 4, Aaron says 3. And you could probably give him like an average 5 as well, like just below your average. I mean, you can probably do that, but it's just like the small things that you see every week that you're like, your passing just isn't good enough, and it's not gotten better in the last 6 months. Your decision making is just not good enough. Again, and not really got better in the last 6 months. Maybe we're too harsh, or do you think our ratings have been fair?
Maybe I'm being lenient with a 5. And I think that's maybe partly because I remember him conceding possession more in the second half, but that was for him at right back. And I mean, I can't wait till we talk about the second half and like the subs, because that's when I was some fun. But yeah, I don't really particularly blame for that. And just quickly, him in Ligue 1, when you signed him, I was of the opinion that he wasn't particularly agile in France. He wasn't particularly quick. He wasn't like an amazing line breaker. He was like average good defender. Like, yeah, someone will sign him. But like, it's not like a Todibo where someone needs to sign him. And he also, the main thing that me and a few other people we looked at agree on, that you wouldn't play him on the outside of a back 3 because you don't want him to be hit at 1v1. So Pochettino playing him at right back has been an interesting choice. to say the least. But yeah, that was my consensus. That was consensus before he moved to Chelsea.
Fair dues. And are you sticking with your 5 that you wanted to give him?
Yeah.
There you go. Give him a 4 overall. We move on to Badiashile, who I don't know what's happened to him. I don't know if he's not fully fresh or fit, or if it's purely that's what happens to footballers when they make mistakes. They lose confidence, and then they start to make more mistakes because they lost confidence. Because, ever since that mistake against Newcastle, he made another mistake at Wolves. Not that decided the game, essentially, because I know we got one back after that, but who knows if we even get that goal if Wolves don't make it 2-0 just before, right? And again today, we win the ball back before they score, just before halftime. And he kind of just like way over hits a pass to Martin. Now, sure, you can say Martin maybe can try even harder for the ball to make sure he wins a free kick rather than the ball gets played in front of him. But at the end of the day, it's Badiashile passing the ball to an opponent that leads to this goal. And then Badiashile not marking his own man, meaning Colwill feels obliged to mark him instead, which Colwill shouldn't have done either, mind you. But if Badiashile was with his man, Colwill would have never done that, stayed with Olise, and the goal doesn't happen. But again, on the ball, he's probably the centre-back that I like most of the ones that have been allowed to play centre-back the whole time, because obviously Colwill could be different. But again, I'd probably say 4 as well, because made a mistake, was maybe outside of the mistake a bit better than Disasi, but still not great, is it? And yeah, it's a bit harsh. I don't want to... I said this in our group chat today, where I was like, there's so many things wrong at Chelsea. The ownership, the recruitment team, the management, the fitness staff, the injuries in it of themselves. The only people who I don't think should be blamed for much of what's happening are these young players. I'm like, everything that happens at Chelsea, and who do most fans choose to blame? The 21, 22-year-old players. I'm like, why is it those guys' fault? Those are the least at fault for all of this. Of course they're inexperienced. Of course they're inconsistent. They're young. That's the whole point. Not their fault. The recruitment team don't understand that when you're young, you're less consistent. Unless you're fucking Messi or Mbappe or Haaland, right? Everyone else is more inconsistent when they're young. It's just what football is like. Oh, my days. Aaron, I'll let you go first. I then go to Alex, and because I know you don't have all day, Alex, I do want to go to some tactical changes after that, and me and Aaron will finish off the ratings like that. But Aaron, before Badiashile made a mistake for the goal, would you give him lower than Disasi then, or is it overall still about the same? What would you give him?
For me, I said in our group, look, this guy cannot be near the starting 11 right now, because every single game he seems to be playing, he's just making mistakes. And yet again today, there was another one, because when he picks up that ball in that position, he's got 3 different players that he can play that ball to. And he manages to somehow find the one place where none of those 3 players are, give the ball away. And then on the back post, Olise is free because Colwill and Badiashile are both marking the same player like retards. So, I mean, I don't know what's going on with him, but it is concerning, because it's like he was doing really well, and then out of nowhere he gets was either injured or ill, whatever it was, and then came back, and just from there it's gone to pot really. So I think he really needs to just take some time out, hit the bench, and eventually come back into the side at a later date. But right now he's not in great form at all, and yeah, those 2 mistakes there were just like, it was so easily avoidable, and somehow we still managed to concede from it right before half time. So for me, I'd go for like a 2, if I'm being completely honest with you.
Yeah. All right. Fair dues. I hear it as well. Alex, I'll ask you for Badiashile, then we'll move to Colwill, and that then allows us to do the whole tactical discussion about Poch. But Badiashile himself, obviously the goal, gives the ball away, then doesn't really cover his own man. What do you make of him today? What do you think of Badiashile overall, especially compared to what you've said about Disasi? Because all of us rate him quite highly. Obviously, his last 3 games have not really gone his way or to plan. But overall, all of us rate him quite highly. Do you agree with that? Or is that one where Chelsea fans get a little bit ahead of themselves because we've been starved for good players?
No, you should rate him high. I think he was the more impressive in France compared to Disasi. Yeah. But I'd match a 4 today. I was quite shocked to see he's only started 5 games, I think. Played 6 in the league this season.
He's only come back from injury this late in the season. He did his hamstring, had, I think, surgery, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe not. Maybe he didn't have surgery. I can't remember quite anymore. But he was picked up that injury maybe in April, May, just before the end of the season, and was out. Didn't do any of preseason and came back through September, and then was kind of training his way back, and then started playing on a couple of smaller occasions. I think his first game of the season was the cup game against Wimbledon, maybe even. But then I guess with centre backs, a bit more difficult to rotate when you don't have to. So it took him a while to play a bit more regularly. But sorry, just explanation.
Yeah. He's only 22, I think, and I guess missing the preseason is probably making an impact. But yeah, today a match in 4.
There you go. Overall, leaving us at a 3.5. We move on to Colwill, and rather than the individual rating, I want to use Colwill, him again being a left back, as for all of our discussion about Poch's tactics, and that is what we start with, but also what we did in the second half. Because I know you don't have all that, Alex. Just tell me what you think about the whole thing. Rather than me trying to force questions down your throat, just speak your mind about what you think, because to me, to most of us, it's just come to a point where it's baffling. And again, it's not about, okay, you play a centre-back and left-back. Many teams do that. Do you know what I mean? Many, like Arsenal play Ben White at right-back. Man City play Ake or Guardiola at left-back. It's a thing that happens, right? It's not an outrageous thing to do as such. But the way we implement it, it just doesn't work at all. For me, at least.
Yeah, I've lost for words for waiting in a second. I mean, see, from what I can tell, from what I've seen, Colwill needs to come off for one reason or another. So,
you think he needed to come off?
Well, that's what everyone online seems to be. He was ill or fitness or something, like he had to come off.
I hadn't even heard that yet, so maybe.
So maybe even if it wasn't that, it makes it even funnier.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think every other manager in the world would go, okay, I've got a choice here. I can put my left back, who is natural left back, in Martin at left back, and sub Colwill off and bring someone else on. And I know there's a guy on Twitter called Johan Cruyff, I think is how you say his name, who's very, very good, lovely stuff. Good friends with him. He talks tactics, and he says like Pochettino wants to maintain a back three, and I'm like, okay, I understand that, but even then, what he did, which was take Colwill off, bring on Thiago Silva, put Gusto at left back, Disasi at right back, Silva in the middle.
And Nkunku right wing, who wants to come inside, meaning we have no right hand side anymore.
We'll get to that. But what ended up happening was it meant Gusto kept going forward. Disasi had to keep going forward because, as you said, Nkunku's come on, and Nkunku's had to be shifted to the right because Gallagher's gone into 10, because Lavia's come on into midfield, and because Nkunku wants to come inside, that means Disasi has to go forward to provide width, which is the most predictable thing in the world. So he hasn't maintained the back three at all. He's just left Thiago Silva and Badiashile there in the back two. Almost immediately, Thiago Silva makes a mistake because he can't defend in wide spaces because he's really old. While I was watching it, usually I watch things every week, and you can see the logic behind each move. I had no idea what was happening. I leaned forward in my chair. I put away any sort of distractions. I was like, what actually is the idea here? And it took about 10 minutes for like the 4-2-3-1 shape to sort of come up. But yeah. I cannot come up with a logical answer for what he was doing. And it's what I wanted to ask you, the both of you at the start was, did it actually feel like a win? Because in that second half, I feel like any other football team other than Crystal Palace, they would have taken advantage. But because there was that 10 minutes, you fixed it after about 10 minutes with Noni Madueke. But like in that 10 minutes, Chelsea didn't have a shot. You didn't have a shot. You went from the 43rd to like the 70-something minute without a shot. I had very little words, and just like an ending note of it, like that means what you now know is that Noni Madueke is like the 5th choice right winger, because it would go surely Palmer or Sterling / Palmer's 1 and 2. Yeah. Then it would go Martin. And now, quite clearly, it will go Nkunku before it gets to Madueke.
And he'd probably, if Sterling was fit, he'd still probably put Mudryk on the right before still using Madueke on the right either.
Yeah, basically, for the people in the chat who are like, I don't know what is Pochettino doing? If you're going to ask me, like, are we being harsh? I don't think you are being harsh. I watched it and I have no idea what's going on. And it was
like one of the most baffling tactical changes I've ever seen.
And someone in the comments has said, like, someone in the comments has said, it's my job to analyze football, which it is. I've done, no idea.
Literally. But at the same time, there is no understanding Poch's mind. That's the whole problem here. It's not like we're failing to understand it. There isn't any logic to it. That's why you can't flip and understand it. Alex, I'll ask you this and then you just tell me how much longer you've got. On Colwill, you give me a rating for him today as well. But what have you made of Colwill? Because obviously everyone knows Colwill was phenomenal at Brighton. But now we've been playing him at left back the whole time, which I know at times he also did at Brighton, but in a very different role where you had like Mitoma as the left winger, left mid, left wing back in some shapes when Brighton did some strange things. And then Colwill was a left centre back that sometimes pushed more maybe like a left back. But he's essentially not played a single game at centre back, maybe like one or two all season. And to me, my thought is always, imagine that's what Ranieri did with John Terry all these years ago. Rather than playing him centre back, played him right back for 6 months. Like, would John Terry have even become as good of a centre back if in the most important part of his development years, coming to the top club and finally playing every week for the first time, you play out of position for 6 months straight? It's baffling because Colwill makes a lot of mistakes, honestly, at right back. He does. Left back, sorry. But I feel like almost all of his mistakes are mistakes that happen because he's a centre back playing at left back. He lets people cross way too much. His mind always tells him to come inside rather than stay wide to make sure of a man behind him or whatever. These are the constant mistakes. Even, I can't remember who it was against, but we conceded a goal a little while back. I think Everton away, where people had a go at Colwill that he stood on the line, tried to block it rather than close the man down. I'm like, that's what a centre-back does. A left-back, Cucurella closed him down, sure. But Colwill has spent his entire life being trained to be a centre-back. And then you're asking him to play as a left-back and have completely different footballing instincts. And I just feel bad. Like, he deserves to get criticised because he does make mistakes. And when you play in a position for 6 months, at some point, you'd also think maybe you'd get better at it. But I still feel like he's just being harshly done by because he's playing in a role that it's not his role. But how do you see that? Am I being too nice on him? Because sometimes I am too nice on a few of the common players, but I don't know. I still feel like it's valid.
Yeah, no, again, it's like when he started with Chilwell left wing and Colwill left back. I think every person on the planet would have gone, okay, so Chilwell's the left wing back, and Colwill is the left centre back. Cool, makes sense, play the back three. But it's not. He is a left back. And again, as formerly mentioned, Johan Cruyff pointed out today, like up until, I think this is the first game he kind of had that, he was a bit more inverted.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of the season he has been a pure left back. And I think, I don't know, I guess that kind of comes down to Chelsea have got so many centre back options, it feels like what Colwill,
no fullback options, obviously, with injuries.
Yeah. But even then, he's played when Cucurella's been fit and Cucurella's gone to
and Chilwell was left wing, like you say, yeah.
Yeah, so I guess I think the biggest offender of it, I think when I think of Levi Colwill at Brighton, I think his passing was like possibly his best attribute. And I feel like
cutting it out from that.
Yeah, you're pushing, the more you push him to the side, you're limiting the angles he can pass at. So again, it's a really, really weird choice. And it's like, Mauricio Pochettino knows more about football than all of us combined. But
that's questionable.
Well, yeah, the fact is, like,
that was a joke.
No, I mean, he's got accusations of being a little out of date. I'm yet to see like a very good answer for why he's persisting with these tactics. It's very strange.
People constantly talk about, Mourinho's outdated. He's not ready for the squad. I'm like, he spent the last 3 years at Roma kind of learning what to do with young players. And the tactics are not more outdated than bloody Poch's are. I'm not saying they're much less outdated, but they're not more outdated is all I'm saying. But yeah, that's its whole separate issue. On tonight, what would you rate Colwill, Alex?
Probably like a 3-ish. Again, it's not really his fault, but what can you do?
Yeah, there you go. Aaron, you'd probably go even lower. How do you view the whole, I don't know, like a player like Colwill playing out of position for basically a whole season or half a season? Is there a level of you that wants to give him that, I don't know, leeway or that benefit of the doubt? It's like, well, you are playing left back. Or, like, how do you see it? Because when I watch Colwill play, all I'm thinking really is, even when he makes a mistake, I just wish you were allowed to play centre-back so I could really make a fair judgment on how good you are for us. Because while you're constantly playing left-back, anything I think or say is kind of irrelevant because I'm like, you're not a left-back, so of course you're not going to be that great at left-back.
Yeah, you kind of have to feel for him in a sense because he's playing a position that isn't his. Like he should be that left centre back. That's his position. He played that the whole season last season for Brighton. He done very well there, and now he's coming to this team and being shoehorned in at left back because we've got God knows what injury issues that we haven't been able to deal with, and he suffered as a consequence of it. But that being said, he is pony at left back. He is absolute shit. So it's one of them where it's very difficult to kind of make a judgment because I don't want to go in on him, but same way, like I get you're a young man, but you had a very good season last season, and there's still a certain expectation on you. So you kind of have to learn to adapt to that position, if you get what I'm saying. So it's difficult. I kind of put the rating somewhere in between, and I'll probably go and agree with what you've already said with the 3, but it just feels harsh on him. But same way, you kind of have to understand that yes, we're not the Chelsea that we used to be, but we are still Chelsea, and we still have a certain expectation that we've had players who are very competent in that position over the years. Like you look at Ashley Cole, you look at Ben Chilwell when he's fit, he's actually decent, and you kind of see like the drop off in quality that we're getting with Cole or left back. I just can't wait until when he's able to actually move into that left centre back position, because once he's there, I feel like we'll fully see just how good he is. But yeah, it's unfortunate at the moment, but I'm gonna go along with that 3.
Fair dues. I'm probably going to have to go along with it too. Like the error for the goal, just you can't make errors like that. As much as you play out of position, you should have enough defensive awareness to not make mistakes like that. Even if I know he is roped into it by what Badiashile did in his wrong positioning and giving the ball away initially, and seeing Dizazi get the highest rated of these 3 centre backs is a bit outrageous, because even outside of 2 mistakes that they made, I also think he looked the worst of the 3. But he didn't make a glaring error that led to a goal. So it is what it is. We'll get to Gusto in a second, because he was probably quite clearly, by everyone's opinion, our man of the match. But I do quickly want to get to Caicedo and talk to Alex about Caicedo before Alex needs to head off. Because, Caicedo. 115 million pounds we paid for the guy. And he's not played like 150 million pounds of anything. He's spoken himself about adaptation struggles, this and that, right? Obviously, flying out to Ecuador 3 times in the last, throughout all 3 international breaks. I'm sure that doesn't help either. But you see him play, and you're like, he plays 5-yard passes, and they're bouncing around. I'm like, bro, you need like the basics. A 5-yard pass can't be bouncing around the football pitch. Like, you're playing at Chelsea. You're not playing Sunday League. Your pitch is Stamford Bridge, not the park down the road with 3 molehills where the ball starts bouncing. It's Stamford Bridge. You should be able to pass a ball rolling on the floor. Do you know what I mean? Like, and when you can't even do that, like, we're going way so much further than, okay, he's not quite performing for his 150 million pound level. We're talking about Poch is not using Enzo correctly. Is he using Caicedo correctly? Because it seems that he's not really acting as a real DM all the time. Because in build-up, he often is higher, and then someone like Gallagher or Enzo drops for the build-up. But then in defensive situations, he's rash on tackles, makes way too many fouls, gets booked way too often. On a few occasions, been lucky not to be sent off, like against Newcastle, for example. It's just not working. Now, again, today, for this specific occasion today, maybe we let him off a little bit because, again, he had like 39 degrees fever a couple of days ago. So, and he was kind of rushed back because we had no fit midfielder. So on today, it's maybe a bit harsh. But I still think it applies. What we saw today isn't that different from what we saw most games of him. Now, he had a couple of good games. For example, Newcastle second half, he was great. But it's still, what do you see in Caicedo? Like, you were, I'm sure, one of these people, Alex, that raved about him last season because of how phenomenal he was at Brighton. But it seems like a different
videos on him.
Exactly, but he seems like a different player, doesn't he now?
Yeah, it's been interesting. I was just looking at these numbers. It's interesting. All the key metrics like progressive passes, progressive carries, dribbles, tackles, interceptions are all significantly. Yeah, they're significantly down. Tackles, interceptions like half. Which on the face of it, you think, yeah, he's gone from Brighton to Chelsea, sort of mid-table team to dominant team. But you could argue he's gone from a dominant team to a mid-table team. So you'd actually expect like that defensive work to carry over. He's an interesting one. I don't think he's helped by having Gallagher next to him, because I think Gallagher has a tendency to go off away from the pivot. Yeah. So it leaves him alone. But the best insight I can kind of give here, so a few weeks ago, me and a couple other guys at work, which people don't know is The Athletic, I was sitting with John and Liam Farm, and we were rewatching a couple of Chelsea games over the period of a week, and what we found interesting, which all credit to them, they kind of pointed it out, realized by rewatching, we were like going clip by clip, rewatching it, going back, seeing what happened. And one of our main conclusions was Caicedo defensively, positionally in the press, he always seemed to be a bit too aggressive. He didn't quite seem to. He'd be positioned too high, but somehow he wouldn't be catching his marker. So it happened against Tottenham, I think, where he could have got out to the guy receiving the ball wide a lot quicker before Tottenham moved it inside and ended up scoring. Later in that game as well, like just big vague memory, there's a couple of times where like his midfield partner, I think was Enzo, was deeper, and Caicedo, there's no reason for him to be high, but he has just stepped up into sort of empty space.
Yeah.
So that is something we looked at, and something I didn't pick up in my FIFA video, where at Brighton, he did look a lot more polished than he does now. He looks a lot more raw at the moment. But I guess it is evidence to say, like, this is when you say he's like £100 million player, I don't think he ever was. He is still early 20s, like 22. He's just turned 22. Like, he's still got a long way to go. But I guess when you look at the final details, maybe you guys can rewatch parts of the game yourself and just focus on him and see, like, he's got bits to work on. And I will, again, I'll tie it back to, I do think he's not helped by the tactics. I do think Gallagher in a pivot is just a problem. It's always going to place more work on the defensive partner, because it's going to, if Gallagher goes, it's going to leave Caicedo back. And
the problem is, without Gallagher, we don't work at all.
Yeah, I mean, if it's up to me, I'd be having Gallagher as your 10 with Enzo behind, but I know Pochettino doesn't seem to be.
I mean, while Enzo is injured, we don't really have that option anyway. I'm
sure
Nkunku wasn't even supposed to start today. If we had players fit and not suspended, I don't even think Nkunku starts. And then in the end, he played over 70 minutes. Give me a quick rating for Caicedo, and then I'll ask you the last question for you to head off with. But what would you give Caicedo on a day like today? Again, obviously the fever stuff, but we still have to rate what we saw today, even if there are reasons for what we saw today.
I guess I go 5. I mean, while I was watching, I didn't pick him out as noteworthily bad, but maybe that was because I was distracted by the second half.
I mean, he did still play in the second half.
Yeah, but like distracted by what was happening in the second half.
No,
I couldn't tell you where he was.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, when you look at his stats, 94 pass completion, 5 out of 5 long balls, 9 out of 13 ground duels. Okay, isn't perfect, but 69% you can't complain about. 2 out of 2 aerial duels. They're good stats, right? Like, he won 3 free kicks. Okay, he gave 2 away, but 1 more than he cost us. But only 1 interception, only 1 clearance. I mean, clearance obviously is a DM, shouldn't always be in that situation. We'll dribble past once. That's always a weird stat, I find. I wouldn't go quite as high as you, but we'll discuss that once Alex has left. I want to ask you this, mate. Chelsea are in a position, I touched on it earlier. I think we've kind of passed the point of no return for Poch. I don't think there is ever a way where Poch turns this so far around that he's all of a sudden not under pressure anymore at all. But what do you think Chelsea should do now? Like, Poch does things like we saw in today's game, maybe not to this crazy extent, but baffling things kind of every game. But the problem is, who is there? But also, if you sack another manager under this new ownership, which manager, even if there was one, would take the job anymore? So you're like caught in this catch-22 where you're like, sacking Poch is stupid, but not sacking Poch also starts to feel more and more stupid by the game. So you're like, what the flip do you even do?
Yeah, you've made your bed. You have to line it. What can you do? I think it's a choice between to bad pass. I don't know which is the best. I think you're absolutely right. If you sack Pochettino now, I think that sends a very bad signal, not only to other managers, like people always say, like it does have an effect. Like, some managers will not go to Chelsea, like a Pep Guardiola, because I'm pretty sure this is a story. Like, you're a bit fearful of the sacking culture. Like, there's a fear. Project managers will not want to go to Chelsea, but it's also the thing of the ownership. We don't want to be hire and fire managers, and then surely if they sack Pochettino, they'll be it'll be the most amount of turnover in Chelsea's history in 21st century, right? I imagine that's got to be true. If they're the first managers, if they've got to be the first owners to sack 2 managers in a season, sacking a third within 2 seasons, that's got to be up there. Absolutely.
Absolutely. It does.
So yeah, it's. I guess I don't know. When you asking the question, my brain went to you keep Pochettino until a Tuchel level manager comes on the market, and then
hope that they want us. But what?
Yeah, and you snap them up and you push Pochettino out the back door, because I mean, I said this back when Pochettino was linked to Chelsea. This is always going to happen. As soon as things go wrong, he's the Tottenham guy. Chelsea fans are always going to turn on him. Like,
and the problem is not only as soon as things start to go wrong, before things ever started to go right, really, because things haven't been right even before they ever went wrong.
Yeah, I could see it's coming from a mile off. Like, I couldn't see like what he would do from a mile off, but this toxicity was always, at a heightened risk, and now it's happened. I think you said it earlier. Like, I think it is now just a matter of time. It only takes another series of bad results, and it's done. And the way that the ownership has set the squad up, and the sports has set the squad up, there won't be a quick fix to this.
No, exactly. And that's my
with you. Both Pochettino's the right guy.
And now we're going to go into January, sign 3 more 12-year-olds, and then 2 super expensive 28-year-olds that are then going to magically try to fix Poch's problems, and that we're now going to give Poch players that he specifically wants, and then eventually going to sack him in March anyway, and then get a manager who didn't want those 2 players that Poch got. And that's what I'm now currently concerned about, because I can already see it on the ball. Like, it's just a repeat of last season. They could have sacked Poch before January and already had a new strategy for the window, but they waited. They waited until it was too late. They changed in March or April, whenever it was. And I think it will just happen as a repeat of last year. But Alex, we really appreciate your time. You've given us more than you even wanted to. Appreciate it very much. Myself and Aaron will round out these player ratings. We'll get to a few more positive ones. So ladies and gentlemen, stick around. We have a few more upbeat things to discuss. But Alex, have a great rest of your night. And we'll chat to you soon, my friend.
Yeah, sweet. Give Mudryk a 10 out of 10. He's class. Bye-bye.
See, there you go. Aaron, I'll come over to you. Caicedo, do you think Alex was nice with the 5? I don't know. It's his price tag. Maybe with the fever, 5 is okay. But I'm like, bro, we signed a 115 million pound midfielder, and it looks like, I don't know, he's not really changed the game in any direction for us. Most of the time, he's kind of a bit invisible, and we're hoping he doesn't get sent off, really.
I think it is difficult because I don't know if it's just you, but you see when we're in the game, it kind of feels like Caicedo's in the pivot with Gallagher on paper, but in reality, Gallagher is literally here, there, and everywhere. So a lot of the time, Caicedo was actually left in a quote-unquote pivot by himself. So it does make it a bit difficult when you've got an absolute workhorse next to you who's just here, there, and everywhere. A lot of the times, isn't actually going to be in the position that he needs to be. Say, for example, if he drifts out wide to try and link up the play and then loses the ball, and then they're countering and Caicedo's the only one there, it's very difficult for him to deal with it. Granted, he does make a lot of stupid challenges. Like, you saw it today when he got the yellow card. It was like the ball had already gone anyway. Like, he didn't need to make the challenge. He made the challenge, gave him a free kick, which could have put us in a dangerous spot. So it's difficult with him. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say he does just bad things, because it's very easy to point out the bad and then not pick up on the good because of the price tag. That does obviously indicate you're going to be a lot harsher than giving praise. So I don't think he was all bad. I do think he does good things as well. Like, he does genuinely have points in the game where it's like he'll win the ball back, or he'll try and progress the play, and like you can see like the clip passes that he plays some of them are quite nice, and there are points where he tries to actually really get forward as well and try and help out there. So I can't sit here and completely bash him. So I'd probably go along with a 5 as well, to be honest. I'm not going to sit here and say it was like an average performance, because you do still want more, but it wasn't horrible.
I hear that, and Kevin says it here as well. Am I the only one that thought Caicedo was all right? It's not that I think he does everything wrong, but what frustrates me is that at least because I've tried to recently, because there's been a few of these streams where I've thought Caicedo was quite poor, and a lot of the other guys, whoever they might have been, different people, thought he wasn't bad, or like they're not necessarily that they all thought he was good, but that he wasn't as bad as I thought he was. So I've tried to pay more attention to him specifically. And there are certainly things like Aaron touched on that he does really, really well, where you can see the glimpses of a fantastic player in there. And I absolutely still believe that he can and will be a top player for us. But at the moment, I touched on a simple thing as a 5-yard pass cannot be bobbling along the floor, even 10, 15. Like, that cannot be happening. Like, it slows everything down. It makes the next touch more difficult. It means that the next pass after the next touch takes longer. It just slows everything down. And these are there's such simple things that aren't giving the ball away, that aren't, I don't know, missing a tackle, that aren't missing a sitter. But they're the simple things that I'm like, a midfielder for 150 million pounds, that cannot happen. I don't care for adaptation. I don't care for this and that. These are the small things that I just feel like can't happen. So I'll say 4 overall, giving us a 4.5. Again, I don't think he was awful, but it's just not quite there. Well, then I go to Gallagher and I hear what Alex says, and I agree with him that Gallagher in the pivot is not it. But I still think whenever I watch us play, he's the one that wins the tackles. He's the one that gets us attacking. He's the one that sets up half of our chances. Like, he set up that huge sitter for Jackson. It was a phenomenal pass from Gallagher. Like, Gallagher has created the most chances for us this season. He does everything, even if he's not that great. And I know it's a sign for how bad the rest is that Gallagher is the best. I get that. But Gallagher is still the only one that has performed. His first touch is significantly improved. His awareness is significantly improved. And even on a game like today, I'd give him a 7. Maybe you'd go lower, Aaron. I don't know. But I think he was one of our better players. There was only 2 players that were better than him, in my opinion. Yeah, I think he's good. I mean, if I bring up the stats, passing accuracy 88 is good. 3 out of 3 successful dribbles, very good. 2 out of 5 long balls, all right. I mean, crosses 1 out of 4, but he didn't play wide. 2 out of 2 tackles, 8 out of 13 ground duels, which is pretty much the same as Caicedo, which, I mean, Gallagher isn't supposed to be defensive. Still wins the same amount of tackles. Aerials also 1 out of 1, also won 3 fouls. 9 recoveries compared to Caicedo's 1, you know. Yeah, I'll say maybe I should even say 7.5. I'll be honest, but hey, we'll see what you think, Aaron. What did you think?
Yeah, I completely agree with a lot of what you've said. I think it is telling that Gallagher is the best midfielder we've had this season. When you've got 115 million Caicedo, 105 million Enzo, Lavia, obviously you can't really include in that because he hasn't played, but yeah, it is telling. But same way, I feel like in that same vein, it's a bit of a way of Chelsea fans actually shitting on Gallagher and not actually appreciating how far he's come this season, because the Gallagher of last season and the Gallagher of this season are 2 completely different players. Like, there's no comparing them. He's come on leaps and bounds this season, and obviously it's a good thing to see. And the fact that he is a homegrown player, come from the academy, bringing him through, it does make it that little bit better when it comes to more like talking from the heart. Because it's nicer to see your academy players come up and actually make it. So I am happy for him, and I'm not gonna sit here and lie. Like, last season, I was ready to bin him off because his season last season was nothing short of horrible. But he's really turned it around, and the fact that they're looking to even potentially sell in January is mind blowing with the amount of injuries we have in midfield, and the fact that he's been our best player and vice captain.
Exactly.
Like, he's our vice captain as well. He's been captain plenty of times on the pitch because both of us. Yeah, because our captain and vice are always injured, so he's basically been our captain, which is telling as well. And to be fair, he's been performing like it. He's been putting in a shift. But I think my biggest issue with Gallagher is his discipline and the needless fouls that he gives away. Because even today, he got a yellow card, and it was so avoidable because it was when Poch
seemingly moaning that the manager got a yellow card. At least that's what it looked like on TV to me.
Yeah, for me, it looked like he got it because he said something to the referee. But in that same situation,
after the ref booked Poch, I thought
it's a very avoidable thing. You don't need to be sitting there and talking shit to the referee after he's booked the manager. You just get on with it. But yeah, that's the one thing I think he needs to get out of his game and actually focus on his discipline, because you're the captain, you're leading by example, and you're getting yellow cards left, right, and center and getting sent off as well. So that's my main irk with him. And I think for that reason, I give him a 6.5, just because that discipline thing doesn't seem to be sort of sinking into his head that you're the captain, you need to be leading by example. And he's the one who's getting a lot of yellow cards and sending off as well.
It's very true. But would you agree with the 7 or would you go for something different, bro?
I'd go for the 6.5 just to basically mark him down on his discipline. But besides that, I do think he had a stellar game.
There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, with that being said, as it's just me and Aaron now, I'll give you a poll to pick between a 6.5 and a 7. The poll will be in the chat right now. Please select your vote between those two, and then we'll put that on screen once the poll has had a few votes. We'll leave Gusto, excuse me again, to later because he's getting the highest rating. So might as well leave him to last. We move up. Let's do Martin, shall we? I'll keep this one short because I don't want to be here forever because I know you need to get up early in the morning as well, Aaron. Martin missed the sitter or missed the 1v1. Didn't really have any positive impact otherwise, but I still feel a bit bad for him because why is he playing right winger? So I'm giving him a 4.5. Without me feeling bad, it would have probably been a 4. What would you give him?
Yeah, I feel bad for him. He's literally playing on the complete opposite side of the pitch to where he normally plays. Like he's a left back and he's playing right wing. So I don't even feel like judging him for that. It's so difficult. Like you're clearly not an attacker. You're a defender and you're being played in attack. Like it's so stupid. And I do feel bad for him because we don't even have a fit left back and he still doesn't get played at left back. Like that tells you a lot of what the manager thinks of him. And I get that he tried it in preseason and whatnot, and it had varying degrees of success, but just play the kid in his position, man. Like he barely gets any game time as it is, and you're then shoehorning him in a right wing rather than left back. Like it does irritate me a little bit. I do feel bad for him, but same way today, he wasn't great. And I don't know if I'm wrong here, but on his chance where it was cleared nearer to the line, did he have the option to pass to his side where somebody was waiting for a tap in, or am I getting that
Maybe
wrong?
Jackson was there, but I feel like because he was so under pressure from a defender as soon as he controlled it and quite close to the goalie as well.
Yeah. You feel like that
maybe he
he
could have,
might
but
be.
again, being a left back in that position, I feel like you could have scored, but I feel like I shouldn't criticize him for not potentially squaring it while he's trying to hold off.
I don't even think it's to be with a left back. I don't think it's got anything to do with being a left back. It just seems like none of our wingers know how to square a ball and give us a tap in.
That is the whole
but no, I do feel bad for him. I'll just go along with what you went with because it's unfortunate for him. He's playing nowhere near where he's meant to be.
There you go. I mean, a few people have gone in a similar realm. I've seen 6s, but 5s, 4.5 as well. So maybe we could have done 5, but hey, 4.5 it shall be. We'll move on to Nkunku. His first start, and it was good to see. And I said it at the very beginning of the stream, I did feel like, in particular in the first half, you did notice second half that he just got tired. Like you did, it was very obvious, and you can't hold that against him. But you can just see the difference. You can give him the ball, he's not going to lose it. You can give him the ball, he's going to control it. A difficult touch, he can control it. A stretch, he can control it. He can turn, he can move, he can pass. He tried to play through Mudryk, obviously. That got intercepted. Ball falls straight back to him. And first time, he knows Gusto is somehow running from the right-hand side to the left-hand side. And Mudryk and Nkunku just knows he's there and just somehow knew he was there and to pass it to him. I still don't know how he did that, how he knew. I have no idea. And that obviously leads to our goal. And that was a great moment. But there was obviously also the moment where a referee friend of mine was absolutely outraged that wasn't given as a penalty because there was a small clip, but it was ever so slight. So it's a bit of a tricky one. Like in reality, if you experience it yourself, you're probably saying clear pen because he touched me. That's why I didn't hit the ball. No matter however so slight the contact is, contact stopped you from almost going a guaranteed goal with Nkunku's finishing. But it's one of those I'm like, all right, don't give it. Like if the ref gave it on the pitch, I don't think VAR would have overturned the other direction. But it's one of those where even the video footage really probably wasn't quite clear enough for them, as much as I maybe don't agree with that. For his impact, I'm giving it a 6.5. And for the fact that he's not played in God knows how many months and months and months and only has had 2 small sub appearances. So I'm saying 6.5. In reality, it was probably maybe closer to a 6, but yeah, I'll say 6.5. Aaron, what did you make of Nkunku first start? Did you also feel like we just looked at a more cohesive attack, especially in the first half with him in there? Or did you think that was more on the day rather than anything to do specifically with Nkunku?
Yeah, no, he is a breath of fresh air. It's nice to see him in the squad finally. And obviously I was actually surprised when he was given a start, but then when you think about it, sort of the options that are available, it's not all that surprising because Palmer's suspended, who potentially could play in the 10.
71 minutes.
Yeah, I thought he would have been hooked a lot earlier than that. You could see in the second half he wasn't really with it like that. But the play where he put Gusto into assist Mudryk was top quality, and I do really like him as a player. I just think there was a couple of times where I think he may have been lucky to avoid a booking because he done a couple of stupid fouls on the same player, not too far apart from each other. So I feel like he could have potentially been booked for that. But yeah, he's clearly not fit enough to play a full game yet. He probably should have got a half at best. He needs time to really build up his sharpness and general match fitness. So I'd probably go along with a 6.5 as well.
Fair dues. And then we'll go to Mudryk.
Sorry. Just on Nkunku.
Go on.
You know that pass that he played over to Gusto on the right-hand side?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my
Outrageous.
word.
Yeah.
Bump it up to a 7 just for that.
Fair. You know what? I'll go along with it. And any positives, we've got to take it these days. Move on to Mudryk. Good goal. Unfortunately, got injured again. To remind everybody, he did apparently walk around in like the little lap of honor after the game to clap the fans. And if you do your ankle and then you can walk, my ankle is still in a strap. So I know if you really do your ankle, you ain't walking. So that makes me positive, but that doesn't mean he could still not be out for a week or two. So I'm hoping, because the Mudryk we're seeing now is the Mudryk with all, or slowly but surely we're getting to what we wanted to see. Because now how he started the game, the first 25 minutes or so, he was outrageous. Like, he was actually outrageous. Now it slowed down a little bit as the game went on, fair enough. But for the first 25 minutes, I literally give him a 9, maybe even a 10. He was outrageous. Like, that pass to Martin was insane. The goal itself was phenomenal. He had that other shot as well, where he went through. Where was it? Jackson played him through with the back heel. The first touch was maybe a touch heavy. If he has a better first touch, maybe he scores it. But still, the pace on the man, it's just the amount of threat that Mudryk just existing creates at Chelsea is insane. Like, no matter, even if he has a bad game, whenever we sub him off, we get worse every time. I don't even know how it happens. I know we scored after today, but I still felt like if Noni doesn't pull that penalty, there's no chance we get a goal outside of that once Mudryk was off. He was outrageous and got a goal today. Hey, he's getting on the goal contributions ever so regularly now. Isn't that? Hey, I'm buzzing about that. Because he tailed off a little bit, I'm going to give him an 8. Maybe I should say 7.5. But if we give Nkunku a 7, I think Mudryk deserves an 8. Good goal, great play. Again, slowed down a little bit, but in the grand scheme of things, absolutely brilliant. And hey, I'm just really, really happy to see him play more regularly, play better, get on the score sheet. Like, these are the things that are going to make him more confident and become more and more better and just be more confident, right, Aaron? Like, I'm sure you're happy about that as well.
Yeah, no, I'm really happy for him. He, you know what, the kid works really hard, and even like his tracking back, for example, he really puts in a shift, which is really good to see.
He put in some top.
Really good to see. Yeah, like, I really like that from a winger. Just really is getting stuck in and helping out his fullback, which is, yeah, it's good. But I think he was unlucky not to get the second. If maybe that touch was better, as you said, he thinks that over. Mudryk brace would have sent me into, I don't even know what. That would have completely sent me off. But yeah, no, I'm really pleased with him. Like, he looks like he's slowly starting to come into his own. This is really his point where he's starting to gain that confidence, pick up his form. So it's really good to see. So I'll go along with the 8 as well. I do feel like he tailed off, but same way, I'm not going to knock it because I feel like he put in a shift.
Yeah, I will also say I think he tailed off second half because Pochettino put Gusto at left back, and that forced Mudryk into areas that he wasn't as comfortable in. Like, I could tell he didn't really know fully where he needed to be now, where he needed to move now, because Gusto was occupying the wide area, but Gusto couldn't really run in behind, so Mudryk could drop back out wide after Gusto overlapped, because Gusto had to use his own right foot and always came inside. It did really work out.
I feel like when you've got Gusto on that side, it's a lot harder for a winger, because when Colwill was there, Colwill will sit back a lot more, which means the winger has that license to really get up there knowing that he's got the cover behind him. With Gusto, because he likes to bomb up there, the winger always has that thought where, okay, my fullback's gone. If they get the ball and my fullback is still forward, that means I've got to start running back.
So
Well, it
for Mudryk, it's
shouldn't
easy.
really matter because you had the Zazi at right back then, and it should just shift across, and it shouldn't be a problem. But you're right, and I don't even think necessarily. I think Chilwell and Mudryk can work because Chile overlaps so much that Mudryk can then come back out once Chile has gone past, and I think that can work. And then Mudryk can make darting runs like the way he scored. But Gusto kind of stayed in that half area, halfway into the opponent's half on the side, and I'm like, that's exactly where Mudryk wants to be. You're like, either you go higher or you stay lower. Again, not a criticism towards Gusto, really. It's a criticism towards Poch to tactically make things happen this way. But yeah, there you go.
I think that's the part of what happens. I was going to say, I think that's a part of what happens with having a right-footed fullback playing left back, because the you're more comfortable on your right foot, obviously. So you're going to look to cut in more. You're not going to try and overlap and just get the crossing. Even if you overlap, you're then going to try and cut it back onto your stronger foot. But when you have a right-footed fullback, they probably want to just cut inside more because that's going to make them more comfortable than playing it on the left. So that maybe does hinder him a little bit as well. So it's one of them where he's not really going to be playing with Gusto behind him all that much. It may be like a tactical tweak in game like we saw today, but I highly doubt you're going to see Gusto starting there a lot and Mudryk having to deal with that, or Mudryk going over to the right side and having Gusto behind him.
I agree. Let's move to Nicholas Jackson. Honestly, until that miss, I thought he had a pretty decent game. But that miss was shocking. But his link-up play was really, really strong today. We touched on that Mudryk chance. If Mudryk scores, that's an outrageous assist from Jackson, by the way. Like an outrageous backhand assist. And he had another couple of good moments where he really did well in link-up and playing. He played Mudryk through was really nicely. He played, I think, Nkunku through really nicely on occasion. I thought he was decent. But then that miss. And then the goal after where we all thought, typical. Misses, we all abuse him. And then 2 seconds later, he scores. But then even more reason for abuse and criticism because he was offside again. Literally, Broja and him both stood offside. I'm like, have our strikers, do they have a mortgage on offside? Like, what is this? Stop being offside. Like, it's literally, that's part of the striker curse at Chelsea, isn't it? Like, Morata, offside constantly. Higuain, offside constantly. Tammy, offside constantly. Kai Havertz, offside constantly. What is it with these lot? Baffling. Like, absolutely baffling. I'm going to go higher than you will today. I know that, Aaron, and that's okay. Jackson's got a lot of grief and a lot of criticism, and 95% of that rightly so, even if the wording of it to him personally on his socials and whatever else, or even about him on other socials, even if people didn't direct it at him, it's been too harsh. And I thought he genuinely bounced back from a lot of criticism from, say, the last games well until that miss. But you could see him as he was lying and hanging in that goal net. Like, it's worse on him than it is on us, if we're being honest. Because of the link-up play, I'm going to give him a 5. And I know that's a bit high, but that's why I'm going to do it. That's what I'm going to do today. Yeah. The link-up was so strong today that it's enough to still at least give him a 5. But he cannot miss chances like this. Like, he just has to stop missing chances like this. It's a joke, man. It's a joke. It cannot happen anymore. But Aaron, how far low are you going to go compared to that? I assume you're going to go lower.
I don't know. Like 2.
Yeah.
2. Is he even worthy of a 2? I don't fucking know. But yeah, I'm done with Michael Jackson, man. This guy is just he's so shit. He is so shit. How he has 7 Premier League goals is beyond me. He is.
And he could have had 8. Like, it was so close and offside.
No, but you know why it doesn't surprise me? It's because he's always fucking offside. Always. The guy is offside more than Werner ever was, which is fucking concerning. Like, I don't understand him. Like, how do you go from that in pre-season to this? Like, he is a joke. He had good link-up play at times, but ultimately, you're playing up front. You need to put a ball in the back of the net. And he seems to be allergic to doing that the easy way. Because I don't know, like that chance, bro. I'm sorry, you have to be scoring that. You have to be scoring that.
And just quickly, by the way, to this comment here by Dobak, absolutely not was it the same, no different to Mudryk's. Because Mudryk had to take a touch at full pelt. Yeah, he took a slightly heavy touch, but the goalie was already rushing out because the touch, like Mudryk controlled the ball already in the box. The way Jackson had time and space. And he all he had to do was roll it in the far corner because the goalie didn't have the far corner covered. But he tried to go for a mix of a chip and a curl, and it just backfired hugely. I don't think they're quite the same. Obviously, I get the similarities, but I don't think you can say they're the same. I certainly think Jackson's was worse than Mudryk's was. But anyways, let's go to Gusto before we even get to Madueke. For me, 10. And I know because overall we were awful and everything else, especially in the second half, I don't care. Gusto was absolutely outrageous today. That goal is unbelievable. Mudryk scored, obviously. But Mudryk, that turn on the... Gusto, that turn on the right. And then, ball goes to Nkunku. Nkunku tries to play through Mudryk. Doesn't work. In that meantime, after turning and creating the chance essentially himself, Gusto runs over from the complete right-hand side to the left-hand side, overlaps Nkunku for the passing option. Nkunku finds him, and he plays the perfect cutback to Mudryk. And at least Mudryk was stood in a correct position. Usually our players are never stood there. And it was a fairly easy, simple finish. But what Gusto did there was outrageous. Maybe 10 is a bit too high, but even defensively, he's so good. No one gets past him. He's so quick. He's so strong. I love him. He's one of my favorite players, honestly. I'm such a big fan of Gusto. Yeah, maybe people can say 9. 10 is too high. I should say 9 or 9.5 or whatever. But nah, I'm saying 10. I don't care. He is brilliant, and I absolutely love him. Aaron, are you going to go as high as a 10? But even if you're not, obviously go for something different. But I think we both agree that he was brilliant.
I don't know if you remember at the... I wouldn't say beginning of the season, but earlier on into the season, I think there was a couple of us within the group who said, yeah, we weren't really convinced by Gusto and we weren't really seeing what you guys were seeing. I think it might have been me and Ollie, It might have been Ollie. I'm not sure. Shout out Ollie though, but I think it might have been.
Dams loves Gusto, doesn't he?
Dams loves James Ward-Prowse more than anything, not Gusto.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, shout out the boys, man. Shout out the boys. But no, yeah, I was never... At the beginning, I wasn't truly convinced by Gusto, but yeah, he's really changed my mind. And honestly, sometimes I forget that he's 19 years old because he looks like a grown-ass man.
20 now, but yeah.
I don't know, actually. I was looking at it when the lineup came out, and I was just counting how much younger than me he is, which was scary. But yeah, no, he is quality, man.
Yeah, he's 20. Turns 20.
It's so good.
Still super young.
It's so good having cover like that for Reece James because we haven't had a good right back cover for Reece James in general in a very long time.
No, quite frankly, we haven't had, other than Reece James, we haven't had a good right back in a very long time. People I know ask you was great as a professional, but as an out-and-out right back, he was never great.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's really refreshing to see that.
He had his clutch goals, but he wasn't ever a great right back, realistically.
Yeah, I guess you could say that, but he's so refreshing to have in the team. Like he's quality, and the intelligence he had to make that run beside Nkunku in order to play that ball back to Mudryk was great. Defensively, he's really come on leaps and bounds. I feel like he's doing a lot better defensively. He's becoming that sort of 1v1 defender who is just a nightmare to get past out wide. So I was really happy with him. I wouldn't give him a 10. I think that's a bit of a stretch. I think you're getting a little bit excited there. So I'll go with a 9. Out and out man of the match, yeah, he's a 9 though. I wouldn't go as high as a 10.
There you go. See, maybe I knew you would go 9, and so you get to 9.5. I said 10. Shut at me. Maybe that's what I did.
Big brain, please.
Exactly. Before we move on to the subs, just quickly before we need to wrap this up, and then Poch as well. Gallagher's the vote did well. It's not over yet, I guess. But you know what? I'll give you 5 more minutes, guys. Place your vote in the poll. Currently, 7 is winning over 6.5 by 55 to 45%. We're gonna not really talk about Broja and Thiago Silva. We don't have time for that now. And Gilchrist as well. Shout out him for making, I think, his first team debut in the Premier League potentially.
Oh no, he has. Gilchrist has to be a 10. Did you see that clip of him on the touchline?
No.
He's basically the ball's in play. I don't know if it was a throw in or what. He's gone to absolutely twat the ball to make a clearance, it's still stayed in play. And then he's gone to block someone booting it away with his head. Yeah. He's a nutcase. I love him already.
Apparently, John Terry thinks Gilchrist the next big thing. So,
well, I hope so because he looks like. He
just looks very short for a centre back because he's supposed to be a centre. He's very short, so that is a bit of an issue.
He looks like a proper hard nut, though. He looks like a proper hard nut the way he was trying to. The passion he had in the last minutes, fair fucking play, mate.
Exactly. He looks like an absolute machine. Just turn him into a DM, he'll be a wonder player. But anyway, Noni Madueke. I mean, today could not have gone better for him, really. Obviously, he could have started, but really, in terms of the opinion of him within the fan base, could not have gone better. Everyone fuming that Poch doesn't start him, but instead a left back and right wing. Then he does bring him on. He wins the pen, which, by the way, the most plain and obvious penalty you will ever see. How no ref, no lino, no nothing saw that. And the commentator even initially said they checked, it's not a pen, and then they went back on it. Ridiculous. But clear pen, took the pen himself. Apparently Broja and someone else, I can't remember who, question, are you sure? Like, do you want to take this one? Who was it, do you know?
It was Gallagher.
Gallagher.
I think
fair enough. To be fair, I didn't even consider Gallagher, but Gallagher I would have trusted to take the pen, to be honest. But anyway, Noni stepped up like he did already against, I think it was Wimbledon, much earlier in the season, the Cup.
Where it was Wimbledon when we won 2-1.
Exactly that. He loves a 2-1 penalty goal, doesn't he? But yeah, won the pen, scored the pen, had a nice run on, like, the build the stadium up a little bit as well. So with that said, I think as a sub, I give him a 9. I mean, maybe I should even say 10, really, because what more can he do as a sub? Win a pen, score a pen, win the game. What more can you do? But I'll say 9. But yeah, brilliant, really, from him, and the way it went for him couldn't really have gone better for him, hasn't it? Couldn't it?
Yeah, no, he was the match winner. Came on, won a penalty, scored it. You can't really ask for too much more. He got us 3 points. So yeah, we'll go with the 9, and I'm really happy for him because he's been so badly mistreated by Pochettino, and I think it's about time he starts getting some of that respect that he deserves.
Jackson, you thought Jackson was offered it first? Maybe, I don't know. Apparently, the commentators, the kind of the second commentator, the expert, the pundit, whatever you want to call it, he said, and I had even though I watched German Sky, you can select English commentary, but I don't know if it's the same commentary that you English people would have had or not. I don't know, but he said that apparently Poch on the sidelines decided to give it to Madueke and like clapped him on the back and like, you go do it or whatever. I don't know if that's true. That makes Poch look a bit better here. But yeah, shout out you, Noni. Hopefully you get to start at Luton. I quickly, Broja, not much to say. Thiago, not much to say. Lavia, I know, played less than Broja did, I think. Or the same. But he was brilliant. I mean, kept it simple, but he had more passes into the final third in that little time that he played than any other player on the pitch today. And I'm like, well, flipping out. This is what I've been missing. I'm not saying he shouldn't have started every game and he's going to be the world savior, right? But for what he's done today and for how long he's been injured for, sub-appearance, brilliant. Again, 19 years old, man. 19. It's ridiculous. Were you as happy as I was with him?
Yeah, man, he did really well. I saw a stat and it said Lavia registered more successful passes into the final third than any other Chelsea player while he was on the pitch.
Exactly.
And that was 7 passes into the final third in 32 minutes. So, yeah, he did well. He did well. I mean, it's difficult to really make too much of a judgment because, he's not got any match fitness, hasn't kicked the ball in an actual game for God knows how many months now, didn't play preseason either. So, yeah, it's been a long time coming for him, but it's good to see him back out on the pitch now. It's good to see how he gets on, really. Just on the penalty thing as well, it was Poch who gave it to Gallagher and then said, if you feel like Noni's more confident, then give it to Noni, and he gave it to him. So it was initially meant to be taken by Gallagher.
How do we know that?
It was on Twitter. I saw it on Twitter. I can't remember who posted it. I could find that for you, actually. It was posted by...
You know what? I'll start waffling about Poch, and you try find that, and then we can quickly get it up on screen. So you go.
I've got it. I'll send it to you in your Twitter DM,
or you send a private chat or whatever. I don't mind.
I can do that as well. Actually.
No, you got it. I got it. There you go. I'll bring that up on screen for just a second. See, Aaron with the input, mate. He knows what's happening. Pochettino Madueke taking the pen instead of designated taker Gallagher. I said it was Connor, but I said to Connor, if Noni was more confident, you can give him the penalty. You have to be confident in that moment. I am so happy because a player who comes from the bench needs to show his character and this hunger. He showed he was ready to take the opportunity. He played free. He did what we needed in this moment. I liked it because he showed he was disappointed with me because he didn't play too much. Well, yeah, that is good. But easy for Poch to speak well like this after well, it's worked out. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I wouldn't have minded if Gallagher took the pen instead of Noni. I think Gallagher would have scored it as well, I'll be honest. But yeah, I think with how the whole situation went, I think it was good for Noni the way it was. We get back to the player ratings. Poch, we won today, and I'm still only giving you a 4, and that's being nice. He needs to go, in my opinion, but I know we don't really have another option. So we're kind of like, I touched on it with Alex earlier, we're stuck in this catch-22 where I don't really know where to go. I want him gone, but I also think it's stupid to get him gone. So no solution to this is really good. And it's just a bit dreadful. But that tactical change in the second half was one of the worst tactical changes I've ever seen a manager do. And I've seen Frank Lampard last season. So for Poch to top that is outrageous. Like, I don't think Potter ever did anything even remotely close to this stupid than what Poch pulled off today. They're ridiculous. How he got away with this, like, there's been games where he coached us really, really well, and we didn't win. The fact that he did that today and got a win, the man is a lucky boy. A lucky boy. But yeah, I'll say 4. What would you give him, Aaron?
I don't understand Martin at right wing. He's starting over Madueke, and he could have still started the two together with Martin actually in his natural position as a left back and Madueke out wide, but chooses not to do that, and then brings Gusto over to the left in order to play decisive on the right, just to bring on Thiago Silva, and it's all a mess. I don't know what to say about him. I saw a tweet by Matisse who he said that Poch is literally he's not living, he's surviving, and that couldn't be more true because this is literally a game-by-game thing now. I guarantee you a couple more losses and people will be absolutely losing their minds until he's gone. So, yeah, today was not great, but we got the win, so I'll go along with your 4, but it could have been a lot worse had we drawn that game if we didn't get the penalty.
Fair dues. Fair dues. I think we've spoken enough. I'll keep it short. I'll keep it simple, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to wrap this one up. Please do check out Alex on social media and his TikTok and on YouTube. Also, the links down in the description below. Thank you guys for tuning in. Subscribe if you haven't already. I should start telling you that again more. Hey, it's what it is. Was busy over Christmas, and then I almost forget how to stream, for flip's sake. Ladies and gentlemen, again, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button anywhere. It would be massively appreciated. Thank you guys for tuning in. We won a game, 3 home wins in a row. Never thought I'd see the day again, I'll be honest. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Up the Chelsea, upwards and onwards, and we'll see you next time.